Nice and smooth up here where you've been rubbing, and if you move your hand down a little bit down below, you'll feel the change, you'll feel the difference.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Feel that? So cool. So now you just had to yeah, just keep working the bottom and then all the way around again with and then even pass me your feel along here, feel along there. You can feel how coarse that is.
Okay.
So all of that edge, this edge here, up, all needs to also be rubbed. So you can feel it's not too bad here, but just down there it's quite coarse. Yeah. That's cool, it's looking good. Even, yeah, wicked, that's looking very nice. So rather than rubbing the same area, what you need to be mindful of is just where you're rubbing, because you're going to be rubbing this area and it's already smooth.
Okay.
Yeah, so just keep feeling your work. Just keep looking at your stone, and you can see all of those need to come out. You can see all the imperfections here, here. Other than that, that's looking really cool. So how long are you in Aotearoa for?
Until the 23rd.
Oh,
So
yep.
less than a week left.
And then how long are you in Raglan for?
For the rest of our time here.
Yeah, I think we're going to be here
That's cool.
in Raglan the whole time. We're staying in a couple different spots in Raglan, but...
So what have you been doing since you've been here?
Well, we met Lisa. Do you guys remember her last name? She's a councilwoman.
Oh, Thompson.
Yeah, we met Lisa Thompson, which was really cool. And we met...
She's nice, eh?
Narunoa.
We stayed at a retreat in the middle of the jungle for a couple of days, which was fun.
Oh,
I don't know if
cool.
you know Rangi Maria and Bob. They were really nice.
I don't.
Yeah. Just different stuff. We've just been hearing from different people about the kind of the Maori culture and sort of like the renaissance of some parts of it.
Yeah, so like with what you'll find with our culture is that it's been really suppressed. It's been really alienated in a lot of sense, just in regards to colonization, which has made it really difficult for Māori to reconnect and to gain knowledge.
What place do you feel like art has in that like reconnection and knowledge, like reclamation?
A lot, like you'll find, like a lot of history has been managed to be retained through our art, so carving and different forms, and however a lot of that knowledge is still being lost. There's very limited people that a lot of elderly can recite a lot of knowledge when they wish to hand it over to you. So, but a lot of it's, you know, it's we're still trying to I guess just find our way in terms of where we're moving, where our Māori art is moving to. You're finding that our art is evolving, which is just evolving with the times, you know, it's changing. We're now utilising, you know, look at carving. We used to carve with stone tools, and now metal arrived and we're carving with metal tools, and now my cousin Makita over here arrived, and then, you know, yeah, so a lot of materials are changing with the times. So I'm finding like a lot of my friends are sculpting and utilising plastics, ceramics, lighting into their sculptures, and highlighting. It might be a carving that's moulded out of resin or bronze, and you know, so it's still regarded as being Māori art, which still has context and kōrero around Māori tikanga, Māori customs, and yeah, it's just that the medium has changed. Yeah.
Do you think that the significance of the art is still like intact despite the change in medium, or do you prefer working with those more traditional?
I think it's just probably a personal preference for different individuals, but I guess it's just determined by the artist really, and how they come in, because we're all at different levels of knowledge base. When if you went to Rotorua, where there's a traditional carving school, you'll find that they're rich in a lot of kōrero, a lot of dialect. They're really strong with tribal patterns. That's all they really are structured around, is traditional patterns. The school that I went to was contemporary, so it still had a strong kōrero around patterns, and they were all still emphasized. But I just think that different artists are at different levels in their own personal learning, and that can sometimes manipulate, I guess, the meanings of the true meanings of patterns and designs. Yeah.
What would you say your level with that is? Like, how much emphasis do you put onto?
Well, so myself as a Māori artist, a lot of the ideas that I like working with are based on trying to keep my culture alive. Hey, it's trying to acknowledge and educate people on what's happened to my people. Hey, this is why it's kind of difficult to explain, but yeah. So that's how I am like at this point in my life where I just like to acknowledge my culture and my roots, and it's important that we keep a lot of those stories alive through art. And not everybody is on that same page, but for myself personally, that's why I do what I do. If I wanted to be wealthy, I would have gone to medical school and studied to be a pediatric oncologist, but I chose to do what I do, not because of the money sides of things, it's because of what it does internally. That makes sense? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's something that art gives you that makes you feel really good, and helping people do headstones, and you can go into a shop and order a stone, and there's a lot of exploiting that happens, and just kind of I think anyway, it's it's expensive to have headstones and things done. They charge like $3-4 grand, and it's just a square block that's polished, and just people will pay that because they're vulnerable, Yeah. But it's kind of like over the last couple of years I've been doing a couple of headstones, and it feels really cool working with family, working with acknowledging the dead, acknowledging their life here, and your energy that you're putting into the stone. I'm sure my mother-in-law will be really pleased. It's yeah.
Are most of your clients Maori? Or most people who commission from you?
Unfortunately, not. Well, for a lot of the moko that I do, yes. A lot of the paintings and stone sculpture that I do, no. And unfortunately, it's non-Māori that are probably on the more of the wealthier side, that tend to purchase a lot of art, which is disappointing in a way, but it's the vibrations of colonization, isn't it? I don't know any indigenous race of people that's wealthier than the colonizers, and that's how it's system's made, how it's been designed. So I get a big kick out of creating artworks around those ideas and those concepts, and challenging people's ideas. And
do you make like Maori based art for people who are not Maori?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure, like for anybody that is non-Māori that is wanting a piece of Māori art or a moko, Yeah, man, it's really cool. You have to understand our culture and where we've come from to being suppressed. And, you know, like, in the early 1700s, this government came out with an act that was to stop Māori from carving, stop us from tattooing. It was against their law, and anybody that practiced those methods were imprisoned.
What
Hey.
year was that?
It would have been around I think it might have been around 1907. It was called the Tohunga Suppression Act, and that was to basically just stop Māori from practicing their customs, and that took place. That's what started happening. So you started to have a rebellion with a lot of gang members that were, hey, that's how gangs were formed. Crips, Bloods, that's how they were all formed. So it was a rebellion against the government and the crown, and you started seeing a lot of moko being worn on Māori for just as a rebellion. And again, you know, and it was, I think, collectively Māori worked together to establish certain art schools to revitalise this treasure that has been passed down. So back to your question, when somebody that's of non-Māori wants to have a piece of artwork in their house or on their skin, or it's whether or not they know that, I see it as an acknowledgement and as a huge bridge, you know, a huge bridge of relationship, and it's cool, man. Yeah.
Do you ever work to, like, I guess, educate those people about, like, what it is that they're getting or commissioning?
Yes, so you'll find a lot of artists put hidden ideas and hidden little patterns in there that, I know a few artists that love putting in little hidden messages, hidden symbols that just acknowledge the journey of art, whether it be their specific journey or as a whole. Yeah.
Do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. I have all sorts of series of works that I've done. So a classic example would be behind you is a piece of marble, which has come. A friend of mine managed to source 50 tonne of marble, which in Wellington we have the Parliament,